Hello everyone and welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Emma and today we're going to talk about a game that I've not played on the channel in quite some time, and that is of course Disney Dreamlight Valley. There was a time in my life when I sunk countless hours into this game, but in recent months I've fallen out of love with it, and for a while I thought that the DLC would spark some desire for me to play again, and I've tried to log in a couple of times over the past few weeks, but each time I can only just about stay online long enough to check Scrooge's shop. So I have made the decision not to buy the latest Disney Dreamlight Valley expansion pack, and I'm going to share with you why. Don't forget to like and also subscribe, but let's get into it. I just want to say a few little things before we get into my reasons why. I am a full supporter of play whatever game brings you joy, and this is obviously not a review of the DLC as I've not played it, but if you think this DLC will bring you that spark of joy, go ahead and buy it. It's obviously your money and you can do whatever you want with it. Instead, this video is aimed at those of you who are maybe more on the fence and maybe have felt yourself falling out of love with this game recently also. You may also disagree with my opinions, and that's fine, they are opinions, so please, if you have anything to say in the comments, keep it kind of hate-free. I'm also not saying that I am totally done with this game. Who knows, maybe one day I will pick it back up. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into this. So the first big reason as to why I'm not going to be buying the DLC is because I've kind of fallen out of love with the game. The first reason why I've not really been playing it as much is that everything just feels quite repetitive in the game. Do not get me wrong, I love grinding in games and farm sims are one of my favourite game genres for that reason, but even when there is fresh new updates, it kind of feels like I've seen this before and it has just been reskinned or rehashed. I do commend them for adding new features such as Daisy's Boutique, but that wasn't really the content that I was after. Plus, it's another thing to try and fit in my valley, which is just the bane of my existence in this game. But aside from this, there is the monotony of the same old fetch quests, the dream snaps with uninspiring themes, and the grind of the star path. All of this has just made me feel like the game is more of a chore than actually something that I'm getting enjoyment from. The one thing that kept me logging in for quite a long time was the fear of missing out on cute items, but since glitches with decorating and my valley being overly full for any further decoration, I just lost interest in logging in for that reason also. Decorating for the dream snaps also got a little much for me. There was a feeling that I needed to spend hours decorating something to fit it to that particular theme so I could get the most Moonstones that I possibly could, and then once I was done with that, the build wouldn't match the vibe I wanted for my valley, so I would just end up tearing it down, and then it felt like such a huge waste. It also felt like there was such a challenge for trying to find space, which I know they're kind of adding in these islands, but that's not how I want my valley to be. I don't want to have to go off to a separate place. It's just a little bit of here's something to try and patch up the mistakes that we've made in the past and not envisaging that people would want that space. The decorating system and managing the inventory with your furniture was never my favourite as well. I hated that glitch where you had to go scroll back to the top. I know this has been fixed, but that did put me off for quite a long time. I know it's had some changes as well, and I like the idea of being able to rotate things more, but I think the only thing that would make me really want to get back into it would be the addition of free placement, which I cannot see happening at any time soon. I briefly mentioned bugs, and these are another thing that put me off logging on. There was a period of time, maybe about a month, where I'd log on to Twitter and there'd be constant tweets of people moaning about bugs and glitches in the game that they were struggling with, and this kind of added on to the feeling of why bother trying to log on when the game is so broken, and that's especially hard to take when this game has been out of early access for nearly a year now. We've spent so much money on it, so it's frustrating that we're still encountering these bugs, and they seem to be quite slow with picking up on fixing them. I've not really seen many hot fixes or any news on that, which is again a little bit disheartening. The reasons are already kind of stacking up, and I haven't even mentioned the dreaded M word, Moonstones. We all know the free-to-play drama, and I'm not going to touch on that, but I have already spent quite a lot of money on this game. I bought the Ultimate Edition when it first came out, and then the DLC last year, and because of that, out of principle, I will not buy packs of Moonstones, and any items I have bought from the premium shop have all been earned from the Dream Snaps. My self-restraint is normally pretty low, so I'm actually quite proud of myself for not sinking here. But this self-restraint has been tested more and more recently, as it feels like they keep adding more and lots of different items to the premium shop, plus those kind of bundles as well. I know a lot of people will say that the game feels very cash grabby, and I'm starting to feel that way now. It's definitely kind of really sinking into me how much of they are trying to still push those Moonstones while charging a premium price for the base game and these DLCs. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to me, and I can't get it out of my head now. All of the things I could have gotten over, but maybe the final straw for me was when I decided, hey, I'm finally going to log in and try the game again. I did my Dream Snap, and then on results day I logged in, quite excited to see if I had got some Moonstones. However, there were no rewards sat in my mailbox, though I think it had glitched out. I was so disappointed, and then after that is when I kind of really made the decision, I'm definitely not buying this DLC. There was a little while when I was really tempted after watching the showcase, and when it came, I won't lie, I was sucked in by all of the pretty things, the new features, and I really like the theming of this new world, and it definitely looks like they have listened to what the community wanted. The areas are actually stunning, and all of the new furniture and foliage is beautiful, and I kind of had in my head like this would make for some really good builds. I also love the fact that they have finally made the stores fit a bit better with the surroundings. For Rift in Time, they just look so out of place. So if there is any reason that I would kind of consider buying this game, then it would have been to kind of play around with these new items. But if I put my sensible hat on and actually think about the gameplay, I just know that I'm not going to enjoy it. I mentioned earlier about the rehashing or reskinning of things, and even from watching the trailer you can see this coming through yet again. For example, the whole idea of the night thorns and cleaning up your valley. I just don't think I can bring myself to go through this again. Yes, they've made it fit with the theme, but this is exactly the same mechanic we've seen twice before, and I don't want to have to do this over 3 maps. I know this is a key part of the game, and it's kind of why we play the game and the way to get the currency, but if they're just going to keep doing this for any future DLC, I'm definitely done. I wish they could have incorporated this into receiving it from actually doing things such as fishing, so there's more of an incentive for me to actually play these games and activities and just do something different. I'm so tired of having to clean things and pick things up. It's just so repetitive, as I said earlier. I'm going to be getting on the repetitive train for using the word repetitive at this time. But it is, and I'm not going to lie, it just doesn't interest me at all. I think the character selections for this DLC are okay, and I do love Merida, but let's face it, if they're going to encourage people to pay out for the DLC, they're gonna want to put those big name characters out there, but maybe I'm just being cynical. I also don't like that they put Flynn Rider behind a paywall. First you have Rapunzel in the Rift of Time, and now to reunite them, you have to buy the second DLC. That seems very calculated to me. Maybe controversially, I am also not bothered about Maleficent and Hades. I know these are probably huge fan favourites, but they just don't appeal to me. So out of the 5 characters, I'm probably only really interested in Merida and Sleeping Beauty, which isn't really worth it for me. In the Rift in Time expansion, we got the brand new minigame, Scramble Coin, and as much as I lose at this game, I actually thought at the time, hey, they've put quite a bit of effort into this. So I was excited to see what new minigame they would be for this DLC, but I was a little bit deflated when I saw that they were doing a puzzle. Yes, the puzzles are good, and I like the idea of actually finding the puzzle pieces, but isn't this not just the simplest type of game that they could have done? At least with Scramble Coin, there was also quite a lot of replayability, but with the puzzles, I just don't see that as much, sadly. Maybe I'm just being overly critical here, and lots of people really love the puzzles, but sadly, this is just not for me. If I wanted to play puzzles, I would probably go elsewhere. One thing that I will know that will come with the DLC will definitely be quests, and part of me really does hope that these will not just be quests without depth and just generic fetching things that we've seen in the past. My hopes, however, aren't high for this, which is another one of my reasons why I'm gonna skip the purchase. Aside from maybe 3 quests I've done in DDV, I cannot tell you anything else that has been memorable about a single quest that I have done. And one of those quests only stands out to me because the sheer amount of clay that was required for it. There is a slight glimmer of hope that we may see more interactive quests with the trials area, but we don't really know what this is for. I just want something that is a bit more engaging, more of a puzzle from quests that are just grabbing things for one character, go and talk to this character. And sadly, Disney Dreamlight Valley has never delivered on that front. And for that reason, I'm just gonna hold my hands up and say, I really don't want to play any more quests from this game. There has so many in my game that are just left open, and I'm just not interested on it. So maybe we will wait and see what the reviews are for these quests. Maybe they will be better, maybe they've made some improvements. I feel like I'm definitely not alone with this complaint, so we will just have to wait and see if they have changed it up for this DLC. Another thing I was not a huge fan of was the announcement about the DLC roadmap timings. I get it, DLCs frequently do have staggered updates and I'm fine with that, but 6 months? 6 whole months? That's half a year. That feels like such a long time. I don't know what I will be doing in that time, nor will I remember what I have done in the first half to continue the story. This may have been asked for from the community, as it sounds like it was a result of feedback, but for me this just isn't ideal, especially when the last few free updates I played, I maybe did everything in a couple of hours. I need that content, and this just has me feeling or worried that there will be big gaps in that. There is, of course, going to be more crops, forageables, fish, and recipes that may kind of fill up that time for you. And I always love uncovering new things. It's one of the most exciting things about updates and DLCs. But what also comes with this excitement is the feeling of being overwhelmed. I currently have about 4 storage rooms, and I can see that I'm going to need a whole new one if I was to buy this DLC. I don't mind having chests everywhere filled with items, but what I do mind is having to go into all of these different rooms to pick up stuff and then forgetting them and then having to go back through all the load screens again. This may sound really petty, but it is so time consuming and it does get to be a lot. So after doing it twice before, I don't think I have it in me to do all of these resources and then find them homes and worry about what I'm going to do with them. It just doesn't feel like something that excites me, so I will pass on it instead. And the final thing I want to talk about is the pricing. The basic DLC is $29.99, which I'm guessing will be about $24.99 in UK pounds. This is what I paid last year for the Rift in Time, and I think that was a fair price. But I know that if I was going to purchase this, I would want the Magical Edition, which comes with all of those adorable items. And of course, Baby Pegasus. I mean, who could say no to that? But do I want to spend $49.99 on a DLC, especially when I know I'm not going to play for it that long to get my money's worth just so I can have a cute baby Pegasus? Honestly, no. I feel like Gameloft really knows what they're doing here with this bundle, and they're trying to reel us in with all of the cute items, but I'm not falling for it this time. Instead, I would rather spend this money on other games such as My Sims, for example, which at least I will get fresh gameplay from, and hopefully that will actually perform well on my Switch. So I'm kind of sorry for this rant video. I'm also sorry that this has been pretty negative. I always try to be positive, and I was just gonna kind of sit here and not say anything, but I feel like some of you may be in the same boat as me. Likewise, it's okay if you're not, and if you still love the game, I'm happy for you. But I think it's a good place to leave it. So if you do decide to buy the DLC, let me know if it's any good, if there is any changes from what we've seen in the past. If you don't decide to buy the DLC, let me know what game you're going to play instead. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye!